Please be seated.
Welcome back everyone, it's Robert Macfarlane here. And today we're going to take a look at how using fabricated characters and events helped tell the story of the trial of the Chicago 7. Adapting anything is a tricky business.
Bring it on.
I think many of us have watched a film that have come from a book that we read previously, and we were disgusted by the way in which that book was treated.
Can we just forget it ever happened?
Whenever you're adapting something into a movie, there is always going to be an element of creativity required to help tell that story in the new format.
Learning's always a painful process.
So in order to produce a successful movie, Aaron Sorkin has had to change a few things and add a few things to the original true story of the trial of the Chicago 7 to actually more successfully tell the story and what it really means to an audience who know nothing about it. However, quite often we get very caught up in the accuracy of the content compared to its original.
Must it always be so?
So in this vein, a lot of the media surrounding the trial of the Chicago 7 movie has been really focused on what the movie did that it was accurate and what it did that was inaccurate to the real events.
You are not allowed to create.
So instead of nitpicking about all the details in Aaron Sorkin's trial of the Chicago 7, I want to take a look at what he actually added to this world that wasn't in the original events, the true life story, and how those elements improved the film.
So you did that intentionally?
What did the trial of the Chicago 7 get wrong? Don't particularly like that word, but we're gonna go with it.
Stan Wojciechowski. How you doing, Stan?
And what is your occupation?
I'm a Chicago police officer.
Now, it is true that the police did infiltrate the Chicago 7 rioters before the rioting happened. However, one of those police officers was not real, and that is the one female police officer who is seen on the stand testifying against the Chicago 7 as well.
I'm Daphne O'Connor. Special Agent Daphne O'Connor, FBI Counterintelligence.
But why did Aaron Sorkin decide to put this character in the film if we already had police officers testifying against them?
Do you think it's possible there were 7 demonstrators in Chicago last summer leading 10,000 undercover cops in protest?
Unfortunately, during the real-life events, there were just not many women involved. Therefore, by showing some gender variety on screen would help to not ostracize women from the audience. Also, the female police officer allowed for some comedy and brevity to come from the Chicago 7 defendants.
Sending Daphne O'Connor to break my heart was way out of line.
In a way, this gives some lighter moments to a film that would probably have been an incredibly dark and depressing film otherwise.
How long did you two know each other?
93 hours. Could have been a lifetime.
For a fruit fly.
2 of the characters arrive in judicial robes.
What are you wearing?
It's an homage to you.
And when the judge tells them to take those robes off, the 2 characters who had the judicial robes on didn't actually have police uniforms on underneath. In fact, originally Abby Hoffman, who was seen with the judicial robes on, played by Sacha Baron Cohen in this film, played many pranks during this trial's long stretch. He was even found to be doing headstands on the prosecution's table, which I think would have actually detracted from the film.
Gotta convince him of what? That we're crazy enough to do anything.
Now, although the title of this film is The Trial of the Chicago 7, it started with 8 people. The 8th member of the Chicago 7 was actually a man named Bobby Seale, who was one of the founders of the Black Panther movement.
I'm the head of the Black Panther Center. When the hell am I not gonna be in trouble? Travel bag.
The way in which the judge treated Bobby Seale during this trial was so abhorrent that Bobby Seale did end up trying to fight for his rights and ended up being bound and gagged. Originally, he was actually bound and gagged for 3 full days of the trial, whereas in the film, he is only seen to be bound and gagged for a few minutes before he is sent off for a mistrial instead.
I'm issuing an order declaring a mistrial as to the defendant, Bobby G. Seale.
Holding on it for 3 full days would not have added anything more to the meaning of his mistreatment.
Bobby, Fred Hampton was shot and killed last night.
In fact, we spend longer looking at suspected assassination by the police in a way that I believe adds more depth to the corruption of this event.
You can't aim a gun if you've been shot in the shoulder. You can't squeeze the trigger. Second shot was in his head.
Of the fallen... Seriously? Got my light working again. Fourth and final thing that I want to point out for this film's inaccuracies. So when Tom Hayden, played by the brilliant Eddie Redmayne, stands up at the end of the film and is given the opportunity to give a final remark for the Chicago 7, instead of giving a final remark, gives the full list of every serviceman who died in Vietnam during the period of the trial for the Chicago 7.
Your Honor, since this trial began, 4,752 U.S. troops have been killed in Vietnam, and the following are their names.
A moment happens that didn't actually happen in reality, and I believe really gives us the message that Aaron Sorkin wants us to walk away from this film with.
19 years old. Corporal Kenneth Joe Austin.
Aaron Sorkin is trying to tell us we can be totally caught up in these events that are happening right in front of us, but we need to remember the bigger picture. We need to remember why these things have happened and how we can avoid them in the future. I believe Aaron Sorkin did an incredible job of not just staying true to the events of that period, but also telling a fantastic story that lets us know how we can better live in the world. Thank you for joining me as we explore the trial of the Chicago 7 today. Don't forget to join me on new episodes every Monday and Thursday.